please.
Recording in progress.
As always, too fast. And welcome to the 1167th meeting of the Housing Authority and Urban Redevelopment Agency of the City of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Notice of this meeting has been properly published and posted in accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act. We have our opening roll call. Commissioner Dorsey.
Present.
Commissioner Goudet.
Present.
Welcoming Commissioner Gluck.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
Present.
Chairwoman Marshall.
Present.
And Commissioner Wills is not present today. I ask everyone at this time to please rise and join me in reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That brings us to item 3 on today's agenda, public comment. Do we have anyone from the public who has signed up to speak?
Chris, anyone on Zoom?
Just asking the question. It does not appear to be anyone who wishes to speak publicly.
Okay, thank you.
Item 4, approval of the minutes. And we ask to approve the minutes of the October 24th, 2024 regular meeting, open and closed sessions. I have a motion and second.
Motion.
Commissioner Dorsey, second. Commissioner Johnson. Any discussion?
No discussion, we have all the vote.
Roll call vote. Commissioner Dorsey.
Yes.
Commissioner Goudet.
Yes.
Commissioner Gluck. Abstain.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
Yes.
And Chairwoman Marshall.
Yes.
The minutes are approved. Item 5, reports of the board committees.
The executive committee met, and that will be a part of the secretary's report.
Seeing no others. Close item 5. Item 6, the treasurer's report.
The treasurer report was submitted to the committee. Just one item of note, the large check for Kisby, capital funds were used, were drawn down to cover those costs.
All right. Brings us to item 7, report of the secretary.
Thank you, Rick. So, welcoming the new commissioner, I've established a bit of a cadence of updates. So I will begin with Stanley Holmes. The heat and hot water, the temporary boilers were hooked up and are currently running. We've demoed the old boilers and the new boilers are in the process of being installed. We had set an initial target date of 11/30 for completion of same. Right now, realistically speaking, with other pipe breaks that have occurred and diverting of Kisby staff to repair said breaks, we're targeting early December, but we're remaining hopeful that they can still hit that target date of the 30th. We have expanded the work on the crawl space supply and return piping loops. We're trying to proactively address some of the sections of pipe that we feel are most likely to break in the coming months. The physical needs assessment is actually in the final draft. The last update from our architectural and engineering firm is that they're pending a handful of confirmations and updating of figures. Once that final draft has been released as a final report, we will share that with the board, and we will also share that with our Stanley residents by way of a resident meeting. Resident transfers. So, as we previously reported, there were 7 buildings in Village 3 that were vacated and taken off the loop. And the justification for doing so was that they were in such bad a shape that they were also increasing the likelihood that the boilers would become airlocked and affect other buildings. The securing of buildings and utility cutoffs in the buildings that are being vacated have started. The Phase 1 transfer process has drawn to a close. We are in the early stages of planning and coordinating for Phase 2. We continue to refer residents to various support services by way of faith-based organizations and nonprofits. One of the issues that is affecting residents' efficiency in finding those resources right now is that there are quite a few agencies that have or are in the process of running out of funding for this current round. On the finance end, our fee accountant has been working with our finance department, and they are nearing the close of the year-end closing, not to be redundant. But we have a couple of accruals and a couple of adjustments that they're yet to make so we can submit the unaudited FDS to HUD. And as previously reported, the submission of that statement will allow our auditor to begin their field work, and the audit process will officially begin. The fiscal year end 3/31/26, that budget prep is also going to be occurring with our finance department, myself, and our fee accounting firm is going to be assisting with that process as well. On the management side, an additional 11 units were turned and made available from 10/25 through 11/21, and maintenance has identified another 5 units that are anticipated to become available for lease next week. The vacant turnover tracker continues to be updated and has been included in tonight's board package as a report. The physical needs assessment, similar yet substantially different from what was done specifically for Stanley, that process has begun. Our engineering firm has accessed common areas, vacant units, and is in the process of also checking occupied units. That report is anticipated for completion in early January. On personnel, our central offices unfortunately are still on temporary remote status. More of a hybrid status, but remote status for mold remediation. We had additional clearance testing done that did identify that there was still the presence of spores, and CertPro is in the process of correcting that so that we can get a clean clearance test. Union negotiation status updates were provided via email by council. Maintenance openings. We received applications. Interviews are continuing, but we have extended 2 offer letters for maintenance personnel. And our policy staff training is scheduled for December. That will be with the assistance of John Clark as well as Alvaro Camacho, who is from Joe's firm. Joe's firm played a large role in helping us get those policy updates across the finish line. Therefore, it is very appropriate that his firm is contributing a lot of the source material for that training. And that concludes my report for this month.
Another question. How many family members do we have in the hotels right now?
Off the top of my head, we have 1 building in the second village, which was 15. Actually, I didn't get the final update from Judy, but Deirdre, do you have an updated number? There was an additional 5?
Yes, we have 2 more coming in today.
What was that?
This evening, there will be more coming in this evening.
More coming into the hotel?
Yeah.
Going to the hotel?
Yeah.
So what's the issue with that one? Is it hot water, heat, what?
Additional heating line breaks.
Okay. You saying that you guys you stay on Harbor. Like, how many days a week are you guys here from the same office?
From the same office?
From the senior office, the senior management, how many of you guys on site, like, during the week?
An actual number is impossible to say right here, right now, other than, various staff, depending on the task that they're working on at that moment, they come and go. I've advised that with these spore counts that they do not spend extended periods of time in that office. The reports initially showed that the mold was confined to the copier room, kitchen, The clearance testing showed that it actually has expanded now. There's elevated counts in the conference room, an additional 4 rooms, including individuals' offices outside of that.
And the reason I'm asking because I would like to see, we have a lot of property available for you guys to be on site to work out of those places, like Standing Home have the community centers. I don't know if they have any space in this office. Y'all can use this, we're gonna come in here once a month, right? So I think that's something we need to have, I think our staff need to try to come back so we can be visible with the residents to be able to see what's going on. So I definitely want us to see how it works sometimes, because we do have the building on Pennsylvania Avenue, and this space is available. So I would like for you to see you guys, to try to transition and start coming back on site so people can be able to get in contact with you or the managers and stuff, or whoever it is to get to solve it. So if we get guys, work something out for you guys to at least come back to be on site with people.
It's worth clarifying. We have been in the same offices. Deirdre and I had a fair hearing with a resident today at the Stanley Community Room. Again, various employees, including myself. We've had meetings in this room. We have been using this room on a consistent basis. The Wi-Fi at times has shown to be undependable, but we have had meetings with staff in this very room. We have been working out of Stanley. And even though we try to limit the amount of foot traffic that's going on in the central office, we have, when necessary, gone to the central office as well. We will continue to do that as well.
Yeah, I just need, like I said, is the reason why I'm asking those questions, because I want to see you guys at least coming to work, being here on site. That's all.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you, Chair. That brings us to item 8 on the agenda, other business and communications.
We have any?
And to item 9, draft resolutions which are proposed for adoption this evening. There are 5 on your agenda, numbered sequentially 9825 through 9829. The first of those, 9825, is a resolution acknowledging and accepting the October 18th, 2024 declaration of emergency and ratifying and approving emergency actions and contracts pursuant to that declaration. May I have a motion and a second?
Motion?
Commissioner Dorsey, second. Commissioner Johnson, thank you. That is open for discussion.
Tom, could you just explain it for our new commissioner?
Thank you.
A little bit about the resolution?
Of course.
And can you do it for each resolution? One?
Absolutely.
Yes.
In public housing, there are various procurement standards. Right? There's thresholds that we meet, and it dictates whether we go small purchase, which is no competitive process. We identify a contractor. As long as their price doesn't exceed that threshold, we can go with that contractor. And there's a 3 quote and there's a bid. In an emergency, which has to fit the definition of an emergency, we are allowed to move forward and procure whatever goods and services are necessary to abate that emergency. Stanley Homes, as I'm sure you're familiar with, maybe not firsthand, but through reading about it, has a lot of serious issues, a lot of deferred maintenance that culminated into complete, maybe not complete, but at times, serious failures of the heating and hot water system. So with that backdrop, we had our boiler contractor working on the boilers in the Stanley boiler room, preparing them for the heating season, and they experienced some issues with those boilers that rendered them inoperable at that present time. Given the fact that the boilers are of the age, or were, because they're not there anymore, were of the age that they were, plus these new issues that our contractor encountered, it warranted an emergency declaration.
And that's Kisby Shore, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, the one that was working on the boilers is McNeil.
Okay.
Kisby Shore is the contractor that has been servicing and replacing our heating loops.
Okay. All right, I got a pretty good understanding, thanks.
Okay.
There's no further discussion, that's ready for a roll call vote. Commissioner Dorsey?
Yes.
Commissioner Goday?
No.
Commissioner Black?
I'm going to abstain, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Chairperson Marshall?
Yes.
That has not passed. We require 4 affirmative votes, we have 3 affirmative votes, and 1 no vote, 1 abstention, of course. So, Resolution 9825 has not passed.
So what happens now? We don't pay the A&E fund, we do the one that's standing?
We just don't have an emergency declaration.
Okay.
So this resolution was a ratification, memorialization of an emergency declaration that was already made. As the executive director, the board has vested in me the ability to declare an emergency if deemed appropriate. This resolution was just ratifying that. So the emergency was declared, proper verbiage statement was given to our procurement contractor and was also conveyed to HUD.
Right, yes, it was discussed on the HUD call on Monday. Yeah, so, okay.
Next up is Resolution 9826, which is a resolution amending Housing Authority Resolution number 9804-08-24 to revise the not to exceed amount of the contract with Kisby Lees Mechanical LLC trading as Kisby Shore Corp. From $2,500,000 to $5,500,000. Any motion? Thank you, Commissioner Dorsey. Second.
Second. Johnson.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. That's open for discussion.
This price tag is,
Excuse me.
we went from 1.5 to 2.5, now we're going to 5,500,000. Like, and then we still have Kisby on the contract. A lot of the pipes that they have laid before, it seems like those same pipes that have carbon issues and stuff. And then all I see is they would just keep you raising the bill all the way to 5-point-something million. That's a lot. That's a lot of money. Like, I just feel that we were just at 1.5. We bumped it up to 2.5 now. We're going to $5 million. Like, so I just need some clarity on that, because I just think the tag is just, the price for that just way too high for the quality of work that we're getting, and keep seeing pipe being like breaking and stuff. Cause kids we've been working with us for what, the past year and a half, or maybe 2, changing pipes and stuff.
I mean, I think Kisby, under the most recent contract, sure, but Kisby was under contract with the Housing Authority prior to my tenure here.
Okay.
So I believe that, with the request that I, sort of get into the details and explain these resolutions to our newest commissioner, I believe by way of doing that, I think I'll also answer your question. So when we have a contract, we've already procured a contractor, we've gone through that process, and the not to exceed is a fiscal budgetary control over that contract. The contractor, if we are considering revising the not to exceed, does not get to change the pricing that they've bid on or quoted to us in the past. We're dealing with an additional, not scope, but additional quantity of work. The additional lines, right, as we've discussed in the past, I think quoted was close to 7 miles worth of pipe. The initial plan, until our engineers really started digging into it, was to replace portions of the heating loop. Because addressing the entirety of the heating loop financially is just impossible. With this newest emergency declaration, we had to bring in temporary boilers. We now have to install and pipe new boilers. We also have additional sections of line that are getting replaced as we speak and also in the near future. So what we're doing by way of this resolution is increasing the budgetary cap. It's not a guarantee that we're gonna pay them this amount of money. We're anticipating, based off of the pricing that we've gotten, which they typically come under their estimates, that this is what we project or foresee that we could spend through the Children's contract.
So how much have we spent to date? Because the last night we're at 1.5, and we bumped it up to 2.5 million now. So how much of this 2.5 million have we spent?
I could get back to you with an exact number. I can pull it up on my phone or just give you an estimate.
Can you pull it? Because you saying that we're not gonna see that amount, because if we didn't exceed that amount, I don't think we'll be coming back up here with trying to bump it up to not to exceed to $5 million. So there have to be a reason why you're coming back to us to ask us to put a not to exceed amount to 5.something million.
Right, and I don't have that right in front of me, but our CFO did an analysis of what they've been paid to date, as well as the estimates for the future work.
But I would
That's how we determine that.
Okay, I would like to know the numbers, because I just feel like these numbers are too high, and it's high. So for me to go on something like this, I want to be able to see, to have something, how much money we have spent up to date. Because I don't know if we already have seen just $2.5 million or not, and now we're bumping up to 5 point.
Yeah, I don't
Yes.
want to quote the wrong number,
Okay.
but if it's acceptable to the board, because that analysis has already occurred, could we follow up with a spreadsheet of that analysis? Would that be acceptable?
Sure, but I'm gonna do it, we come into a board meeting and stuff like that, you gotta be expecting us to ask you questions about stuff like this, so you have to be prepared when you do come to the board meeting. So when we do have questions and we need information, stuff like this, we should be able to have an answer. I don't think you should come to a board meeting without not having all the answers for us. I don't think and then for us to vote on something like this, I'm not comfortable.
Understood. Again, we do have that number. I apologize for not anticipating that specific question. I can attempt to locate that right here, right now.
I have a question. Is the contract based off of the completion of a scope of work, or is the contract based on the time frame? And if it's a time frame, how long is the time frame?
So it's a one-year contract, and the
Ending approximately,
it would be, I hope I'm not confusing it with the HVAC contract, I believe August of 2025.
okay, so you're about a quarter of the way through the contract technically, somewhere in that range. And by the end of the contract, it's a do not exceed number of the 5.5 million with the concept that it's going to be less.
Yes,
Just so I understand, thank you.
of course.
If I may, just for a little clarification,
For some time, we go over that amount and then come back and not to exceed, so that's why I want to get clarity on that.
so if I may, for a little clarification for the new member also, the contract is time and materials based on certain criteria that we put out to bid. Everybody bid time and materials, so it's technically a service contract, and when we have 5 breaks every year, we've anticipated 5 breaks or 6 breaks next year. In this current year, we had 3 boilers that were deemed irreparable and needed to be replaced, and that was a little over $750,000. We had a section of property that we decided to shut down, and that was a $1.5 million job. And we currently have a boiler that is on its last leg, and we anticipate that that may need to be replaced as well. So we're leaving a little buffer room, but it's time and materials at the end of the day. And in order to not come back here again now, what I understand is they're proposing is a large number, larger than what we anticipate needed. And that was done the last time, not realizing that we were going to need these 3 boilers, but knowing that we needed to create a bypass loop to eliminate 5 or 8 buildings. So that's the reason that it's been changed twice. And this is why they're going with such a large number to make sure that a lot of our stock that is aging and the equipment that is aging is kind of all coming out of the head, that we're fixing other parts, you're stressing other parts. So you fix a pipe here, you put more pressure in the system, you lose other parts. We were losing a lot of water in the system, and now that we cut off a section that was really bad, we're no longer losing that system, so we put a lot more pressure into the system. So we're having other breaks, now the pressure is back. So, anticipating as much as possible year over year is based on last year and what you could say next year. But that system that is, at this point, we determined that the piping is about 47 years old, and the boilers are about 62. And those boilers were slated by manufacturer to run about 30 years. And when you look at the research, they have some in existence at 50 years. I think we probably had the oldest boilers of that make and model still functioning. And we have others that are getting close to that same age that are beyond their service date that have been kind of stuck in repairs because the red tape with HUD is, if you didn't foresee this, you have to go through a process that takes 90 to 120 days. And so that 120 days is not possible right now when we're doing a boiler that's down and we have 320 residents occupied units with probably 500 residents that would not have heat and hot water. So that's why the emergency declaration was the first one, because the ED determined that by HUD standards it was an emergency and that this was needed, so he declared the emergency. Then we ratified, just agree with what he's put forward, and HUD has already agreed with what he's put forward. So it's kind of a formality that we put that declaration forward, but we also have to back it up with allowing our budget to be changed and ratifying the changes that are needed for our CFO to then change this line item in our budget and inform HUD that this is our new budget, and then we don't get more money. We have to shift money around from other places that were allocated. So it's ratifying something that's already done and already a necessity, and leaving a little buffer room for the administration not to have to do a budgetary change again. So that's why this is there. If I accurately describe that?
Yes.
Thank you for the clarity. It seems logical. I think it's only fair for today that I abstain from everything, but the reason I was asking where the timeline was is if I could be brought up to speed in the next 30 days, and if this is regarding a contract that's going to go all the way until August, whatever the date is, and so on and so forth, and maybe if it's pushed back to the next meeting, I'd be able to be caught up enough to be able to vote on it if anybody thinks that's helpful or not.
Yes, this is very helpful.
So to actually follow up and answer Commissioner Gabay's question, I was able to locate a spreadsheet that was using this analysis that shows invoiced to date 1.4 million. The exact number is $1,402,482.49. I wanted to also add on, because that was a good explanation, that the contract that we have with KISB is defined as on-call as needed. It's not a defined quantity of work, it is a defined scope of work, of types of work that they can do, which is what they bid on in the past. So we're taking what has been expended thus far, what we project being necessary in the future, and also leaving in a contingency amount for just normal routine repairs, because they still do have to service any plumbing failures or leaks at the remainder of the sites outside of Stanley. But without quoting a specific percentage, I'm sure we can calculate that, that the bulk of what we're spending through this contract is for Stanley Homes specifically, and specifically for the heating and hot water loops.
My thing is, kids, we've been changing a lot of pipes for us for years. And I want to know, like, I would like for us to table this resolution so we can get more information from our engineer and stuff. Because I just want to find out, like, the pipe that kids we've been changing over the years up to now, are these pipes still bursting? Like, all the pipes that have issues is like old pipes, or this is the same pipes that kids we have changed over time? Like, I feel like, this amount, like, we already went through half of the money already, so, now for us to push it back up to $5 million, and then, like, for me, I need more explanation from the engineer, if they could come in and, you know,
Madam Chair?
yeah.
If I may, we have Jackson in the house who has, through the 360 group, who has already, they've looked at the analysis of what Kisby did before and would be able to answer if we're working on an area that had been identified as work before or not. So we could ask Jackson to come to the mic.
Sure, yes. And Jackson, if you could just introduce yourself for the new commissioner, please.
Good evening. My name is Jackson Moore. I'm with the 360 Group. So Eli, to speak to Commissioner Gabay, to speak to your specific question, I believe that historically contractors had been tasked or instructed to repair the specific location of an issue. Example given, we had a pipe break in the crawl space of building 2-1. They would go down and replace that 10, 12-foot section of pipe wherever it was most economical to tie into the existing piping. So historically, it had been a repair direction offered to the contractor, and when they performed the work, they repaired that specific section of pipe. We've changed our strategy now from a repair to a full-scale replacement. So rather than replacing a 10 or 12-foot section of pipe and tying it into, you know, less than optimal aged pipe, but it did have sufficient rigidity to receive a new section of pipe, we're now replacing the entirety of the crawl space heating piping. So, yeah, the previous strategy of repairing discrete sections versus now replacing the entirety of crawl space piping is a substantive change in the approach that we've offered direction to the contractor.
Thank you. Makes sense.
Any other questions?
Also, I just want to add on to that this scoping or the NTE increase, as Commissioner Dorsey very succinctly put it, is you know, we did not anticipate having to replace our boilers. We had expected that our existing contractor, the boiler contractor, would be able to repair those and perform the requisite maintenance in order to sustain them through this heating season. Upon opening of the boilers, we recognized that, and after several weeks of the boiler contractor performing the repairs, that they expected to resolve the issue, making the boilers operable for heating season. At the, you know, they, you know, give us 3 weeks and we'll have this concluded. Okay, at the 3rd week, there's still more to do. Okay, give us another week. And then we realized there was such a substantial amount of work required to get the existing boilers operable for this heating season. It would not, the repair work on the existing boilers would not have concluded even as we stand here right now. So the emergency declaration was to take the necessary action in order to deliver heat and hot water for the residents. That's why the temporary boilers are in place right now. That's why the new boilers are being hooked up. We did not anticipate procuring and installing new boilers. We expected to repair the existing ones, and upon inspection and attempted overhaul of those boilers, we recognized that even if we gave the boiler contractor the time and money associated with performing that overhaul, it did not retire all the risks associated with our heat and hot water source.
But they had a executive committee meeting about these temporary boilers coming in, and we discussed it in our executive meeting that we were going to replace the boiler. So I'm kind of confused now that you guys saying that we didn't expect this. We did talk about it. We did agree upon it. So I'm kind of confused now tonight that we're saying that we didn't anticipate it. So I'm kind of a little bit confused about that.
So if I may, so we did have a meeting. This is, the emergency declaration again is ratifying a decision that already occurred. So we did meet, we did discuss, every step of this was done in direct consultation with our engineers because they are the subject matter experts. And we needed to confirm that those boilers were not going to get in service in time to provide heat and hot water to the residents. And that's before the temperatures dropped. So you're right, we did meet about it. We did discuss it. And, you know, what we were basing these decisions off of was load calculations, obsolescence assessments, a number of things, and it's been done in constant communication with our engineering firm. So, you know, again, if you would prefer that I reach out to the engineering firm and arrange for a follow-up presentation, we can definitely start that process.
That would be great.
I will say that, Commissioner, you were on vacation when a lot of this was happening, so when we started into this situation, it was that the engineer came to the property and one of the boilers had damage, where I believe it was to the rear plate with holes tubes. So it was going to be a 6 to 8 week repair. And it was basically a fatal flaw. The second boiler, when they opened it up, had fatal failure as well. And the money would have cost us to repair them at the time is literally probably the same amount of money as the 3 new boilers we're putting in. And at that point, we weren't sure that the fixes are going to be fixed or going to stay, because we just overhauled these boilers last year and put an obscene amount of money into repairs last year. And Jackson's firm, you know, talked about the standby boilers, and he said they could get them in and they could get it done quick. So at this moment, we have the heat and hot water for Stanley consistent through the year, because we have brand new, in a box sitting outside, boilers that maintain the entire development, that allowed us to be able to take these boilers apart, which we didn't have that option before. And this was all discussed a lot while you were unable to be in the meeting. So it's that development literally happened because Alkesh came in and looked at them and said, here's the calculation. And I happened to be there that day, 1.5 million BTUs. And they looked at what they could source, and yes, we can source temporaries, and the decision was literally made like a week before you came back, so that was
The decision was made on the money aspect. It was that 1 point something y'all increasing not to exceed $2.5 million. I was here, we all voted on that. My confusion, my thing is, Dorsey, you were even against us bringing in these new boilers and doing all this stuff.
Well, that's
So,
inaccurate. That's inaccurate.
You were talking, I listened, man.
I'm just
We're not
trying-
about to go back and forth. When I'm done, you can rebuttal, okay? Like I said, I'm not comfortable with that amount. We could go to vote or whatever, or we can table it. We have the engineers come in and give us some clarity on some of the questions that I have. And then,
We'll just vote it up or vote it down, because are we talking about the safety and security of our residents at Stanley and paying contractors? Contractors, we pay a prevailing wage.
okay.
So I would never be against paying contractors to come in and do work at Stanley, you know.
I'm
where-
not saying not.
Well,
I'm voting against not paying.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I would never be against.
All right, so we can vote,
voting.
we can vote, whatever we want.
Mr. Commissioner, DJ, you had a question?
Yeah, Jackson, I've got a quick question. I'm not so sure it's even possible, and if it is, I guess my question is, who would be the person if there's a do not exceed number of 5.5 million, and we're and hopefully everybody's anticipating it's going to be less than that, but in case the extra money's needed, that's needed. And once again, it may be impossible, but is there a person out there, and if so, who could, you know, maybe give us a little clearer understanding of really what the real number is going to be under the do not exceed? Is there a person that could help with that somewhere in the process?
Yes.
You have three, not the answer for you, I'm sorry, I asked Jackson, you actually have 3 people in the room right now that can dig into those numbers with you. You have our CFO, you have Jackson, and you also have myself.
So if it's a do not exceed number of 5.5, what is that? What's everybody anticipating is kind of where the real number is going to land?
So, on average, I believe the delta between what their estimates are, which is, you know, you give them a scope of work, you say this is what we need done. You give them, as Commissioner Dorsey already mentioned, a time and materials estimate. The actual costs have ranged from 60% to 80% of, typically, of what they're estimating. But what you see right here is an aggregate. To get down to, into the specific items that we're talking about. And the first, thank you, Commissioner Bay, for bringing up the first amendment to it, is because we came up with a plan, which we can share, we've shared with the rest of the board, to replace crucial sections of piping within Stanley Homes. And it wasn't for every inch, and we can't address every single inch of mile, because again, we're talking about roughly 7 miles in length. But we identified the sections of pipe that, through our engineers, through 360, we had determined would be most vital to keeping the heat and hot water interruptions to a minimum. And that's what that first adjustment or amendment was for. This amendment is to include the temporary boilers, the new permanent boilers, the installation thereof, as well as shoring up other crawl space piping in other buildings. So it's a high level explanation, I realize that sort of, but you know, in terms of the actual numbers, you know, we've been collectively working on those, and you know, we based those off of the estimates.
Okay,
So my last question is, we did not have the funds to fund all this stuff, so where were we getting all this money from now to, not to see this $5.7 million now? We never had the money before to take care of these issues, so where is the funds coming from now?
I'm unsure as to what you mean by we've never had the money.
We didn't have the fund, we didn't have enough fund, that's why we've been delayed taking care of standing home property and a lot of the issues. So now that we're bumping up this money to $5.5 million, where is the extra funding coming from?
So when you said we never had it before, you're talking about historically?
Yeah, not historically, like the last year, we didn't have enough funds to take care of most of the stuff. That's why we end up in the situation where we had a lot of people going to the hotel because we never had the money to repair, to change the pipes. But now I'm kind of confused what we're getting this.
Can you get a little clarification? What did
I'm
we?
asking where we did not have enough fund before, right? To
Okay.
take care of the problem, the issues
So
that's
Mike,
Stanley.
I'm asking you to clarify for me.
Yeah, I'm clarifying.
What exactly,
What I'm asking,
can I ask the question?
what?
What exactly do you think that we should have done that we didn't do because we didn't have funding? Because we've never had a funding restraint. We've never voted to not do something because of funding.
Yes, we have a lot of time. That's why I'm kind of surprised that this price tag is going up to $5.5 million. I'm kind of confused where all the extra money is coming from now, because before we didn't have, that was the reason why we never took care of some of the issues at Stanley up to this time. Now we have
Can we
not
just-
to SC
can
to
we make it simple
5%.
answer? Can we just ask?
Sure.
Chris?
We can vote. I'm like I said, we can go ahead and vote.
I wanted to answer, I can't
I'm just
answer,
confused, that's
I
all.
can't answer the question, and I wanted to also try to clarify what the question actually was identifying as not having funds for. In my recollection, in the past year, there have been certain initiatives or certain suggestions that were made, such as we're going to install decentralized boilers rather than keeping with a centralized boiler plant, which, so for the new commissioner's edification, you know, we considered putting smaller boilers in every building and then piping the buildings individually. That, I believe, had a total price tag of close to $9 million just for that one action item. We also had a suggestion that was made to go with tankless hot water systems, which early estimates, if that was even going to work, were between 6 and 7, I believe. And I'm pulling these numbers off the top of my head because it's been a while since we last discussed them. So if that's what you're referring to, no, we did not have adequate funding available to shift to those things because it was just those things. What we are shifting right now, where we are sourcing the money from, is our capital fund. These are capital eligible items. These are action items that HUD has already approved. So that's where the money is coming from. A portion of this number, keep in mind, is that we do still anticipate other properties needing plumbing services, if they're minor repairs and not full-scale replacements, they're not capital eligible, so there are operating funds that are identified to deal with the non-capital eligible repairs and service. I was just struggling to again, without clarification, to understand when you mentioned that there's no funding, that I was unsure of what you were referring to.
And as breaks happen, do we ignore it because we don't have any funding, or do we?
No, we've always responded and repaired.
Anything further?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Jackson.
Thank you, Jackson, appreciate it. Any other questions? We're done? All right, we'll call the vote.
Resolution 9826 is ready for a roll call vote. Commissioner Dorsey?
Yes.
Commissioner Goodell?
No.
Commissioner Gluck?
I was going to abstain, but I feel like you guys kind of brought me up to speed pretty good. I think I'm going to vote yes.
Thank you for understanding.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall?
Yes.
That resolution has passed, 4 in favor, 1 opposed. Next resolution is 9827, a resolution approving the utility allowance schedule for tenant furnished utilities and other services for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program for the calendar year 2024. We have a motion and second.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. It's open for discussion. Did I say 24?
Am I allowed to discuss as well? I just wanted to, for one point of clarification, there's actually a typo. It should say calendar year 2025. These rates would go into effect in January.
Okay, so as amended?
Yes, as amended, it's indicated by the executive director, that says prospective for the year 2025. With that, if there's any discussion.
Next one.
Sure, I'll give the background. So our residents that pay their own utilities, which is not typical for high rises. We do have scattered site properties that are single-family homes, a lot of them. If a resident, a public housing resident has their utilities in their own name, the housing authority has a function where we can give them a utility allowance. We have to base those utility allowances off of an analysis of utility rates, which we actually have. That's the backup to this reso. So it covers heating costs, electrical costs, water costs, and the utility allowance covers those utilities, because it's not always across the board that a resident at one property is going to have, the gas, electric, and water all in their name. But the ones that apply would be calculated off of this approved schedule, and that's the amount that they would receive from the housing authority on a monthly basis.
So, quick question. So it sounds like if it's in their names, they can have any one of the 3 or 4 utilities in their name, maybe not all of them. We're talking about water, sewer, electricity, and gas.
Correct.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Of course. I don't want to go too far ahead, but this also applies, the next resolution applies to the Section 8 program, and the explanation is very similar, where hopefully I'm not
Actually,
jumping out of order. But again, the explanation, the clarification on this is that, we use the same utility study to determine the utility allowances for both programs. Section 8 is different in that more frequently than not, Section 8 clients do have the utilities in their own name. There are some landlords that do provide the utilities to our clients. But the schedule establishes the amounts that are allowable on the Section 8 side, especially.
And that's being funded by Section 8.
Correct.
Okay. And Section 8 gets their funding from?
From HUD,
Okay, HUD.
in the form of
Okay.
HCV or HAP subsidy.
Yep. Thank you.
If there's no further discussion, and again, just prior to the vote for clarity, Resolution 9827 does concern the utility allowance schedule for Section 8 program for the calendar year 2025. Roll call vote, Commissioner Dorsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Goodell,
Yes.
Commissioner Gluck,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall?
Yes.
That has passed, 5 in favor, none opposed. Next, Resolution 9828 is a resolution approving the utility allowance schedule for the conventional public housing program for calendar year 2025. I have a motion and a second.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you, Commissioner Johnson. That is open for discussion.
I think the same as amended, and change this to 2025
One.
on the agenda. Anything else you want to add to that? I think you.
I got a little bit of that in myself, but, and if there are any other questions, of course, I can provide clarification.
Okay, seeing none.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Commissioner Dorsey?
Yes.
Commissioner Goudet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall?
Yes.
That has passed, 5 in favor, none opposed. The final resolution on our agenda, 9829, is a resolution approving the attached pre-check rating report and disbursements of bills thereby.
Motion.
Motion, Commissioner Dorsey.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Johnson. That is open for discussion.
Okay, so the explanation on this one is that every month at the board meeting, we provide a register of invoices received that are in the system for payment. The board approves and ratifies payment of these bills. We also include a schedule of checks that had to be cut in between the board meetings. A lot of times that includes utilities. We can't wait on board approval sometimes with the board schedule to cut checks for utilities.
So those were all the payments and disbursements that were in the schedule that was provided,
That's
correct?
correct.
Okay.
So, and this is the ratification of payment of bills.
Okay. I think I'm going to abstain from this one, only because I really didn't get a chance to review it in detail, and probably need a little bit more detail on it before I'm able to, pass the vote. But thank you for the explanation.
Of course.
No additional discussion, the roll call vote. Commissioner Dorsey?
Yes.
Commissioner Goudet?
Yes.
Commissioner Clark has indicated he will abstain. Thank you. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Chairwoman Marshall?
Yes.
That has passed, 4 in favor, 1 abstention.
Chair motion on point of order.
Yes.
I'd like to entertain, if you entertain a motion to reopen the first resolution.
Okay.
While we reopen it, or we voted
Not discussion time.
It's not discussion time, yes. Question. Why don't I reopen?
Is it open now?
Well, I'll reintroduce and then you can have discussion about it.
Okay.
What has been proposed by Commissioner Dorsey is to reopen Resolution 9825, which was voted on and failed by a vote of 311 at the beginning of the portion of 9 of the meeting. If the board wishes to put that up for reconsideration, it would require a motion and a second to put it back on, and then a motion and second for action on the reintroduced resolution.
Make the motion to reopen.
And this will be, for the record, Resolution 9830 will be a resolution to reopen 9825. Commissioner Dorsey has made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Now, open for discussion is the motion to bring 9825 back on the agenda. So,
We'll bring it back up before we vote it down.
we can always reintroduce.
Yeah, none of that same one.
Oh, okay.
You guys have any question? I'm sorry, I missed the question.
Yeah. So why?
Oh, it's exactly what it is. It's a motion to reopen. So we can go through, we've gone through everything else and explained in detail about the emergency. So in hopes that in our discussion when we get there, that the commissioners understand that this is something that's required of us to be done, and it's statutory, and it's needs to be done.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay?
This was previously ratified? No.
No, the declaration itself was previously made and communicated to HUD.
Every Monday, we're on calls with HUD to give them updates with Stanley, the residents, and any emergencies. Anything else you want to add to that? That's every Monday, we have meetings with HUD.
Yeah, primarily the discussion does revolve around Stanley. We do talk about other operational matters because, I don't know if we talk about this at all. And that's definitely something we can set up an orientation where we can discuss a lot of the other ongoing pending matters. In March of '23.
So that's a Monday call between the staff and between HUD,
That's correct.
as I understand it.
And commissioners also do attend. There is a limit of commissioners without creating a quorum that can attend. Yes, commissioners, when available, they do attend these HUD meetings.
I have another question. If I choose to abstain still, which was, what I chose to do earlier, is there a chance that this can, come up again next month? Or once it's voted down, is it voted down for good? Can it be reproposed? I still don't feel like I've got enough information on it. I feel like I've sustained once already. I feel like, without missing one board member, I think I need to understand it a little bit more and understand the process without changing my initial. Yes, Mr. Manfred?
No, I was just going to give some information to the board. So the reason why this is before you, as the director says, he has the statutory power to declare an emergency, but HUD requires that after he does so and addresses the life safety issue, that it still come to the board for ratification, just so you know the process. So what would happen is if it does pass or doesn't, the director will report back to HUD what occurred. So it's possible it would carry to the next meeting, but I expect it will be fully something HUD would ask about if it did pass, because that's the procedure they like to see, and state law requires that it go to the board as soon as possible after the emergency is declared, just to give you the process, not the substance of it.
And that HUD really doesn't like when we don't follow the rules and procedures, and it's a requirement of HUD that we ratify what we have allowed our employees to do. And if we don't approve what our employee did, it causes other domino issues with HUD and oversight and things of that nature. So I have no problem if you don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Definitely-
You don't feel comfortable, don't vote. And I
Maintain
think,
a position, that's not.
and I think what we do, we'll advise HUD that you're new, and it'll be brought back before the board. Because as Commissioner Dorsey said, if you're not comfortable, please do not vote.
That would still be my
Yes.
preference. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Gabay, you have any other questions? We discussed this in executive committee, the emergency.
I have no questions.
So your thoughts sound different from the discussion
My vote
and,
is no.
okay, we didn't know that when we had the executive committee meeting. We were all on the same page with this, so, okay, no problem.
Well,
I wasn't part of that meeting.
So based on the discussion, there's a couple options for the board.
I'll
The-
retract my motion
All right.
based on discussion.
And,
Thank you for the additional talk about it, though.
all right, 9, and Jerry, you throw your second, I assume?
Yes. Mhm.
All right, so 9830 has been withdrawn. So we are now at the conclusion of our resolutions.
Okay, I know we have to go in a closed session, but 10, good and welfare, related.
Okay. Yes, we're, as the chair indicates, there will be an executive session that will follow this item 10, good and welfare. That executive session will be to discuss one matter of personnel pursuant to exception 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, section 12A, if you're keeping score. And there is not anticipated that any action will be taken at the conclusion of the closed session. That said, item 10, good and welfare.
I want to welcome our new commissioner,
Thank you.
and I hate to put you on the spot, but can you just say a couple things about yourself, a small introduction?
My name is DJ Gluck. My name is Donald Gluck, but I go by DJ, and really thrilled and happy and excited to be on the board and participate and help, and looking forward to it. Thank you.
Yes. That's it?
That's it.
Well, Commissioner DJ, I had a brief conversation with him prior to him wanting to be on the board, and one thing, he understands, he's in realty, right?
Correct.
And understands mixed-use projects. And so I was really, just engaging in a conversation with him. He picked up on so much really quickly that I thought that he would be an outstanding commissioner. As you can see with some of the questions that he asked, he's already, doing a good job with just the questions and the understanding. And mixed use, we had a conversation about new projects that are going up, how you need private funding as well as a federal estate funding. He understands that. And it's a lot that he truly understands. So I think he's going to be an outstanding commissioner.
Thank you for your kind words.
Anything else?
Madam Chair, I would say that we had, I think one person came that we gave an opportunity to speak.
Okay,
One person.
yes. You want to ask her?
Ma'am? Ma'am, because you came in late, I'd like to find out if you wanted to speak?
No.
No? Okay.
Okay. Is anything,
Anybody else?
anyone on the Zoom?
No chat, Madam Chair.
Okay. I thought I heard motion back, but. All right. No?
So we are then at the point of entering into closed session. As noted previously, this is to discuss one item of personnel. We could give a time estimate of how long we expect the closed session to take. The time estimates are never correct.
1 hour?
1 hour. See at 10. All right, can I have a motion and second to go into closed session?
Motion.
Second?
Thank you. Motion by the chair, second by Commissioner Dorsey. Roll call vote, Commissioner Dorsey.
Yes.
Commissioner Godet.
Yes.
Commissioner Glock.
Yes.
Commissioner Johnston.
Yes.
Chairwoman Marsh.
Yes.
5 in favor, none opposed. We are entering closed session at, it's like 5:35.